The rain fell hard that night, beating the earth like angry drums, and the wind howled as if the ancestors themselves were crying. At the tall golden gate of a mansion, a pregnant woman was pushed out with force, her bare feet hitting the cold ground. She held her belly and gasped as thunder broke the sky. From the balcony above, a man watched her with eyes colder than stone, and in that moment, fate opened its eyes too. Her name was Amara Njeri. Her dress was thin, her hair wet, her hands shaking as she stood before the closed gate. Inside that big house was Kofi Adebayo, a billionaire known across the land. People said he was born poor, but now his name could open banks and close mouths. He owned tall buildings, fast cars, and powerful friends. But that night, he owned something else too, something he did not want. He owned a truth he had decided to throw away. Amara had loved Kofi when he had less. She had believed in him when his dreams were bigger than his pockets. She had cooked for him, prayed for him, and waited for him when business kept him away. But when her belly began to grow, Kofi's heart began to shrink. He accused her of trapping him. He said the child was not his. He said a billionaire could not be tied down by a woman from the middle class. His words cut deeper than the rain. Security men stood by the gate, looking away in shame as Amara begged. She did not beg for money. She did not beg for love. She begged for respect. She told him she carried life, his blood. Kofi laughed, a dry sound without warmth. He told her to leave before dawn or be dragged out. She was dragged out anyway. As the gate closed, Amara felt a sharp pain in her belly. She leaned against the wall and breathed slowly, whispering soft words to the child inside her. The rain slowed, but the cold stayed. Across the road, under a broken streetlight, an old woman watched silently. Her eyes were deep like old rivers. She tapped a walking stick on the ground and whispered that pride always walks ahead of a fall. Kofi turned away from the balcony and went inside. His house was bright, filled with art and gold, yet it felt empty. He poured himself a drink and tried to forget the look on Amara's face. His phone rang with business calls and praise from men who feared him. He smiled again. He told himself he had done the right thing. Weakness had no place in his life. But sleep did not come easy. That night, Kofi dreamed of a small child crying in the rain, calling him a name he did not want to hear. He woke up angry and blamed the storm. In the morning, the sun rose like nothing had happened. Amara walked through the city as dawn came. People passed her without seeing her pain. She took buses when she could and walked when she had no money. Every step was heavy, but her heart was strong. She remembered her mother's words that a woman carries the world when she carries a child. By evening, she reached the edge of her childhood town, where the noise of the city faded and the smell of firewood filled the air. Mama Zola found her near the road. Mama Zola was an old midwife known for helping women bring life into the world. She took one look at Amara and knew trouble had followed her. Without asking many questions, she led her into her small home. She gave her warm water, clean cloth, and a place to rest. That night, Amara cried quietly, not from fear, but from release. Days passed, and the village life wrapped Amara in gentle hands. Children laughed nearby. Elders sat under trees telling stories. Drums sounded in the evenings. It was simple, but it was real. Mama Zola spoke to Amara about strength, about women who survived wars and still raised kings. Far away, Kofi sat in a high-glass office, signing papers worth more than the whole village Amara now lived in. He was praised on the news. People called him a symbol of success. Yet sometimes, when he stood alone, he felt a tightness in his chest he could not explain. He pushed it away with anger and work. One evening in the village, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky red, Mama Zola placed her hand on Amara's belly and smiled. She said the child was strong. She said the child would come with purpose. The elders nodded, and one of them said that when a man rejects his seed, the earth remembers. As night fell, Amara lay down and felt her baby move gently. She closed her eyes and promised the child love, even if the world had shown them cruelty. In the distance, a drum beat once, slow and deep, as if marking the start of a long journey. If this story has touched your heart so far, stay with us till the end, because the road ahead is filled with truth, tears, and turns no one sees coming. The night Amara went into labor, the moon hid behind dark clouds, and the wind moved through the village like a worried mother. Pain came in strong waves, making her grip the mat beneath her. Mama Zola stayed close, her voice calm and steady, guiding Amara through each breath. Outside, the fire crackled, and women of the village waited quietly, whispering prayers passed down from their grandmothers. Birth was not just a moment here. It was a sacred journey. Amara cried out, not only from pain, but from fear. She feared being alone. She feared the future. But most of all, she feared failing the child inside her. Mama Zola wiped her face and told her to be strong, reminding her that women of the land had given birth during wars, droughts, and exile. Before dawn, as the first bird sang, a baby's cry filled the small room. Strong and loud, it cut through the night like hope breaking through darkness. Mama Zola lifted the baby and smiled. It was a boy. Healthy, breathing well, and holding life with firm fists. Tears rolled down Amara's face as she held him to her chest. In that moment, the pain of rejection did not disappear, but it became smaller. She was no longer just a woman who was thrown out. She was now a mother. The elders gathered later that day under the old baobab tree for the naming ritual. The air smelled of herbs and smoke. A bowl of clean water was placed before them, and the baby was gently washed as prayers were spoken. Mama Zola named the child Jabari, meaning brave, because he came into the world fighting. The elders nodded in agreement. One of them spoke slowly and said this child would grow strong, but his path would cross great trouble and great truth. Amara stayed in the village and rebuilt her life piece by piece. She sold cooked food in the market during the day and handmade cloth in the evenings. People respected her for her hard work and quiet strength. Jabari grew fast, always smiling, always curious. He followed the elders, asked questions, and listened closely to stories by the fire. Even as a small boy, his eyes were sharp, and his heart was kind. While peace grew in the village, noise grew in the city. Kofi Adebayo's name became louder and richer. His face was on billboards. His company spread across borders. He bought land, influence, and silence. At parties, people laughed too loudly around him. They feared him, and he liked it that way. But the tightness in his chest returned more often. Sometimes his hand would shake while holding a glass. Doctors ran tests and found nothing. They told him to rest. He laughed at them. Rest was for weak men, he said. Yet at night, sleep avoided him. He dreamed of rain, of a woman walking away, of a child's cry that made his heart race. Back in the village, Jabari started school. He learned fast and helped other children. Teachers noticed his sharp mind and gentle leadership. When fights broke out, Jabari calmed them. When someone was hurt, he stayed by their side. Amara watched him grow with pride and quiet fear. She never spoke Kofi's name. She chose peace over bitterness. One evening, a traveling seer came to the village. He was old and thin, his hair white like ash. People gathered around him out of curiosity. When he saw Jabari, he stopped walking. He stared at the boy for a long time and then looked at Amara. He told her softly that the child's blood carried two worlds. One of wealth and one of struggle. He warned that truth would rise when the boy least expected it. Amara felt fear wrap around her heart, but she thanked the seer and moved on. She had learned that destiny listens whether you fear it or not. In the city, Kofi collapsed during a board meeting. Panic filled the room. He was taken to a hospital, where again, no clear sickness was found. The doctors whispered among themselves. One said stress. Another said something deeper. Kofi woke angry and embarrassed. He paid everyone to keep quiet. That same week, a small school competition was held in Jabari's town. Jabari spoke with confidence about leadership and kindness. A teacher recorded it and shared it online. The video spread quickly. People admired the boy's wisdom and calm voice. Someone shared his picture alongside the video. Late at night, Kofi scrolled through his phone and stopped suddenly. The room felt cold. He stared at the boy's face. His heart began to race. The eyes, the nose, the quiet strength. It felt like looking into a mirror of the past. His chest tightened again, stronger this time. He threw the phone away and stood up, breathing hard. He told himself it was nothing. Just a coincidence. But deep inside, something stirred, something he had buried long ago. Back in the village, Amara sat by the fire with Jabari, braiding his hair gently. The stars were bright above them. Jabari asked her about his father. The question hung in the air like smoke. Amara paused, then told him his father was a man who feared responsibility more than poverty. She told him that love is shown through actions, not words. Jabari nodded quietly, accepting the answer for now. If you are still with us, stay till the end, because the truth that is rising will shake both the city and the village, and what comes next will change every life in this story. Years moved like a slow river, carrying some people gently and dragging others under. Jabari grew from a small boy into a tall, bright-eyed child with calm strength in his steps. He was kind, but not weak. He spoke little, but when he spoke, people listened. In the village, elders trusted him with small duties, and children followed him without fear. Amara watched him every day with a heart full of pride and quiet worry, knowing the world was not always gentle to good souls. Life in the village stayed simple. Amara woke before sunrise, tied her wrapper, and prepared food for the market. Jabari helped her, lifting small baskets and greeting customers with respect. Though they did not have much money, laughter lived freely in their home. Stories were told by the fire at night, and the drums still spoke during festivals. The land gave what it could, and the people shared what they had. In the city, Kofi Adebayo's world grew louder and colder. His buildings touched the sky, but his spirit sank deeper. His health worsened slowly, like a snake hiding in grass. He felt tired after short walks. His vision blurred at times. Doctors ran tests again and again, but still, no clear sickness was found. Some whispered about stress. Others feared something unseen. Kofi refused all talk of tradition. He said old ways were for poor men. Yet his nights became heavy. He woke often from dreams soaked in rain. In these dreams, a young boy stood before him, silent, staring with eyes full of questions. Sometimes the boy turned and walked away, and Kofi felt a pain sharper than any sickness. He began to drink more, hoping to drown the images, but they returned stronger. A young journalist named Tan began asking questions about Kofi's past. Tan came from a middle-class family and believed powerful men should answer for their actions. He heard rumors of a woman thrown out years ago. He searched quietly, connecting names, places, and dates. Each small truth pulled him closer to a bigger one. Back in the village, Jabari's school organized another competition, this time bringing schools from nearby towns. Jabari spoke again, this time about justice and respect. His words were simple, but they carried weight. A local radio station shared his speech, and soon, his name reached farther places. Amara felt uneasy but said nothing. One evening, Mama Zola visited Amara and sat beside her. She spoke carefully, reminding her that truth does not stay buried forever. Amara nodded, knowing this already. She feared the storm that truth often brings, but she trusted her strength. In the city, Kofi saw Jabari's face again on a screen, this time larger, clearer. His hand trembled. His chest burned. He turned away, but the image stayed. For the first time in years, fear entered his heart. Not fear of losing money, but fear of facing something he had rejected. Tand followed the trail to the village. He watched from a distance, seeing Amara and Jabari together. The resemblance was no longer a question. It was a truth waiting to speak. Tan knew the story would shake the nation, but he also knew danger followed stories like this. That night, Kofi collapsed again, harder than before. He woke in a hospital bed, weak and confused. A doctor spoke quietly and said his condition was rare and dangerous. He said only close blood relatives might help. Kofi stared at the ceiling, breathing slowly. The boy's face returned to his mind, clearer than ever. Far away, Jabari sat under the stars, listening to elders tell stories about pride and fall. He felt a strange pull in his chest, as if something important was calling him. He asked Amara again about his father. This time, she stayed silent longer. The wind moved through the village, carrying whispers of change. If you are still listening, stay with us, because the past is about to stand face to face with the present, and what follows will test every heart in this story. The truth moved faster now, like fire carried by dry wind. Tan the journalist returned to the city with a heavy heart and a careful plan. He knew he was walking between danger and duty. Powerful men did not like their shadows exposed. Still, he gathered records, old messages, hospital dates, and witness words. Each piece pointed to the same story: a woman thrown out, a child denied, and a billionaire who chose pride over responsibility. When Kofi Adebayo heard rumors of an investigation, his anger rose like a storm. He called his lawyers, his guards, and men who solved problems quietly. He ordered Tan to be silenced with money first. A large offer was sent, enough to change a life. Tan refused. Then came threats. Tan did not stop. He believed some stories were bigger than fear. Kofi's health continued to fall. His legs weakened. His hands shook more often. The doctors grew serious. One night, a senior doctor sat beside his bed and spoke carefully. He said Kofi's body was failing in a way medicine could not fully explain. He said the only hope was a treatment that needed a close blood match. The words hit Kofi harder than any insult. For the first time, he thought clearly of the child he had denied. That night, Kofi sent men to the village to find Amara. The men arrived in expensive cars, drawing attention and suspicion. They spoke loudly and offered money, asking Amara to come quietly. The elders gathered and listened. Amara stood tall and calm. She refused the money and refused to go. She said she had already paid the price for Kofi's pride and would not sell her dignity now. The elders spoke next. They told the men that the village was not a market and a woman was not a product. They reminded them that African land remembers truth. Ashamed, the men returned to the city with empty hands. Jabari listened from a distance. He had heard whispers before, but now the words were clear. He learned the name Kofi Adebayo. He learned the truth about his father. His chest tightened, not with anger, but with confusion. He did not cry. He walked to the river and sat alone, watching the water move. He felt a strange pull between two worlds, one of wealth and one of roots. Back in the city, Tan published part of the story. Not all of it, just enough to ask questions. The public reacted with shock. Some defended Kofi. Others condemned him. The pressure grew. Kofi's name, once praised, now tasted bitter in many mouths. Kofi's condition worsened. Machines beeped through the night. He dreamed again of rain, but this time the boy did not cry. The boy looked at him with calm eyes that judged without anger. Kofi woke up sweating and weak. He whispered Amara's name for the first time in years. Desperate, Kofi sent a message asking Amara to forgive him. She read it slowly and put the phone down. She did not reply. Her silence was louder than words. She looked at Jabari and knew he deserved the truth from her, not whispers from others. That evening, she sat with him and told him everything, without hate, without lies. Jabari listened quietly. When she finished, he nodded. He said he did not hate his father. He said he wanted to understand him. Amara felt fear and pride mix in her heart. Without telling anyone, Jabari decided to go to the city. He believed answers waited there. Mama Zola felt it in her bones and warned Amara, but the boy was already gone by morning, carrying only courage and questions. In the hospital, Kofi lay weak, surrounded by money and machines, yet alone. When he opened his eyes and saw a young boy standing by the door, his heart stopped for a moment. The resemblance was undeniable. The boy spoke softly and called him by name, not by title. Kofi tried to speak, but his voice broke. He reached out with shaking hands. In that moment, the weight of his past crashed down on him. The truth he ran from now stood before him, breathing, alive. If this story is pulling your heart, stay with us till the end, because what happens next will force a powerful man to kneel and will teach us what true wealth really means. The room went quiet when Jabari stepped closer to the hospital bed. Machines hummed softly, and the smell of medicine filled the air. Kofi Adebayo stared at the boy as if seeing a ghost made of flesh and blood. His eyes moved slowly over Jabari's face, the shape of his nose, the calm strength in his eyes. The truth crashed into him without mercy. This was not a stranger. This was his son. Jabari spoke gently, his voice steady though his heart was racing. He said he came to see the man everyone called his father. Kofi tried to answer, but his throat closed. Tears, something he had not allowed in many years, rolled down his cheeks. His hands shook as he reached out, but before he could touch the boy, Jabari felt dizzy. The weight of fear, travel, and truth hit him all at once. He collapsed to the floor. Doctors rushed in. Nurses lifted Jabari onto a bed. Tests were done quickly. Kofi watched from his bed, helpless and afraid. After some time, a doctor returned with serious eyes. He said the truth could no longer be avoided. Jabari was Kofi's son, without doubt. And more than that, Jabari was the only close blood match who could help save Kofi's life. The words broke what little pride Kofi had left. He began to cry openly, not caring who saw him. He called Jabari's name again and again. When Jabari woke up, weak but alive, Kofi begged him with a shaking voice. He said he was sorry. He said he was blind and cruel. He said money had poisoned his heart. He begged not just for life, but for forgiveness. Jabari listened quietly. He did not speak at first. He thought of his mother walking in the rain. He thought of the village, of Mama Zola, of the fire and the drums. He said he would help, but only if his father faced the truth the right way. He said forgiveness could not live in hiding. Kofi agreed to everything. He told his assistants to call Amara and the elders. When Amara arrived at the hospital, her heart beat hard, but her face was calm. She saw Kofi small and weak, nothing like the man who had thrown her out. Kofi tried to sit up but could not. He cried and begged her openly, saying her name again and again. Amara did not rush to him. She stood still and listened. The elders spoke next. They said if Kofi wanted forgiveness and healing, he must come to the village. He must face the people and the land where he had caused pain. There would be no shortcuts. Kofi agreed without hesitation. Days later, Kofi was taken to the village, not in a shining car, but on a simple stretcher. People watched in silence as the powerful man arrived broken. Under the old baobab tree, the elders gathered. Amara stood beside Jabari. The air was heavy with expectation. Kofi was helped down. Slowly, with effort and shame, he lowered himself to the ground. He knelt before Amara and Jabari, his head bowed, his hands shaking. A billionaire kneeling in the dust. He confessed everything. He spoke of pride, fear, and cruelty. He begged Amara for forgiveness and asked Jabari to allow him to be a father, even if only in truth, not comfort. Tears filled many eyes. Amara spoke at last. She said forgiveness was not weakness. She said dignity was more important than revenge. She forgave him, not for his comfort, but for her peace. Jabari stepped forward and placed his hand on Kofi's shoulder. He said he forgave him too, but demanded change, not words. The elders nodded. Treatment began soon after. Jabari helped save Kofi's life. When Kofi recovered slowly, he returned not as a king, but as a man learning again. He gave away much of his wealth to build schools, clinics, and clean water for villages like Amara's. He did not ask for praise. The storm had passed, but its lesson remained. Stay with us till the end, because the final chapter carries the deepest truth of all, and a lesson every heart needs to hear. The sun rose gently over the village, spreading light across the red earth as if washing away old pain. Kofi Adebayo woke to the sound of birds, not machines. His body was weak, but his heart was awake in a way it had never been before. For the first time in his life, he was not surrounded by guards, glass walls, or fear. He was surrounded by truth. Recovery was slow. Each step he took reminded him of how fragile power truly was. The villagers watched him carefully, not with hate, but with quiet judgment. Children whispered when he passed. Elders nodded without smiles. Kofi accepted it all. Shame had become his teacher. Amara returned to her work in the market. She did not move into Kofi's house. She did not accept his money for herself. Her strength had grown beyond dependence. She spoke to Kofi with respect, but distance. Healing, she knew, did not mean returning to old wounds. Kofi understood this, and it hurt, but he did not complain. Jabari stayed close to his mother, but he also spent time with Kofi. They talked under trees, not in offices. Jabari asked questions that cut deep, questions about choices, about fear, about what it meant to be a man. Kofi answered honestly, sometimes with tears. He told Jabari that wealth without wisdom was a curse. He told him he had mistaken control for strength. As weeks passed, Kofi began to change his life in visible ways. He sold some of his companies and used the money to build schools, not named after himself, but after the land. He funded clinics and brought clean water to forgotten villages. He returned land taken unfairly. When praised, he shook his head. He said he was paying a debt, not giving gifts. One evening, during a village gathering, Kofi stood before everyone. His voice shook, but he did not hide it. He spoke of his past cruelty and asked the youth never to believe money made them better than others. He said the greatest fall was not losing wealth, but losing humanity. The elders listened, and this time, they nodded with approval. Amara watched from a distance, her heart calm. She felt no desire to reclaim what was broken. She had built something stronger on her own. She saw Jabari laughing with other children, confident and free. That was her victory. Years later, Jabari grew into a young man respected for his wisdom and kindness. He chose education, not luxury. He walked between worlds without losing himself. Kofi watched him often, proud but careful not to claim more than he deserved. Some nights, Kofi sat alone and thanked the ancestors for not letting him die unchanged. On the day Jabari left for higher studies, the village gathered again. Drums played softly. Mama Zola smiled with tired eyes. Amara hugged her son tightly. Kofi stood back, then stepped forward and bowed slightly to Jabari. He said thank you, not as a father demanding honor, but as a man receiving grace. Jabari smiled and said he would carry both pain and hope forward. He said forgiveness was not forgetting, but choosing a better future. As Jabari walked away, the wind moved through the trees, carrying the sound of drums and laughter. Kofi remained behind, watching, knowing his begging had not been the end, but the beginning. The land had spoken. Pride had fallen. Truth had risen. And the moral of this story is simple and strong. Wealth can build walls, but only humility builds bridges. Those who kick others into darkness may one day beg in the light. Power without compassion is empty, and dignity is richer than gold. If this story touched your heart, remember these are the voices of our land. Subscribe to this channel, share this story, and stay with us till the end of every tale, because African stories carry lessons the world must never forget.